Hi, and welcome to Team Tiny Under the Sea Hop featuring digital stamps from 7Kids craft store called Bubble Babies. I am so excited to be able to share these digital stamps with you. They were so much fun to color. So I went ahead and colored these off screen, and you can see my list of Spectrum Noir colors on the side there that I used. I made a mistake with the Ranger Liquid Pearl Silver Pearl on the hair. I accidentally squished it with my hand, so I got some on the flower. So I'm going to scratch that off and touch that up a little bit. And I did get some really great deals at Hobby Lobby and the Dollar Tree with some tube confetti and some sequins, and I want to use some of those in this shaker card that I'm going to create. So I used the Ranger Liquid Pearl to add some dots to the little girl mermaid as well, and then I also used my Jelly Sparkle pen to add some shimmer inside the center of the flowers. The stencil I'm using for the seaweed backdrop, I thought it looked like seaweeds kind of, is from Stampin' Up. And I actually, after I did this, I actually found a Tim Holtz one that I already had that was a lot smaller and would have probably worked a lot better, but I had already created this background and glued my mermaids on before I realized that I had this other one that might work better. So I just went with it, and then I used some Distress Oxide ink in the ocean color to color over those seaweed, I guess. And I was going pretty heavy-handed. I wanted the bottom at least to be fairly dark. And then I went over it with a little bit with some Stampin' Up! Turquoise to add some different colors, and then also some old craft paint or ink from Stampin' Up! To just dull the brightness a little bit and give it more, I don't know, ocean colors, I guess. And I wanted to use a stencil and give it some waves, and I don't know, I had the hills and drifts and I had the clouds, but I didn't have any water ones, so the waves I made didn't turn out the way I'd hoped, so I didn't emphasize those more because they just weren't looking how I wanted. So and then I had to fussy cut these out because I do not have a scan and cut, and it is quite detailed, so it took a while, so I didn't show any of that on the video, but I'm gluing these on. And I wish I would have started with a bigger background because I really wanted these all three mermaids to be on there, because when I saw these I really thought of my daughter and my daughter-in-law and their two littles and how busy mamas can be, and because this mama looks like she's kind of at the end of her rope, and her girls, mermaid girls, look like they're up to a little bit of mischief. So I just thought of them when I was creating this, and all those tired mamas out there. So I popped the one little mermaid up on foam tape and left the other ones flat on the paper, and they kind of hang over the edge a little bit, so I am going to have to trim a little bit as I build the shaker card. But I didn't have to cut much off, and I don't really think it detracts from the overall scene. So I used the Spectrum Noir Sparkle pen to add some shimmer and shine to the mermaid tails. It's really hard to see on the camera, but it did add a lot to it. And then I also used the Stampin' Up! Just regular ink pen in blue to make some air bubbles, and then I used the glossy accents on top of that. And I only did the one mermaid first because I just wanted to let it dry and make sure that I really liked it before I ended up adding it to the little girl mermaids. And I'm using an old Stampin' Up! Set. I just wanted the word sending hugs and splashes, and I wasn't sure if I was going to add the word to my little cutouts there or if I was going to do that separately. I just wasn't sure how I wanted it to all fit together. Because I really wanted to do a shaker card, and like I said, I just feel like I should have started with a bigger background, so I was trying to squeeze everything on there. So now that the card is dry and I need to cut a frame out for my shaker card, and so I'm using just a ruler to kind of figure out how much I need to cut from the inside. I didn't have a die cut that was big enough to go around this, so I ended up using millimeters instead of inches. It was just easier to get a closer configuration of how much I needed to cut out. And this is definitely, you know, the old school way of having to do it. And I wish that I maybe would have made the opening a little bit smaller so that there wasn't so much of the inside edges showing, but I still think it ended up turning out really cute. So I just make some dashes on there and then use my ruler to get a straight line. It worked out pretty well. I think I got some straight images, and then I just used my regular cutting blade to cut that out. Obviously you can't use a guillotine cutter with this. You would need to use the other kind with a slide on it, which is all that I have anyway. So I color the frame the same Distress Ocean color that I used on the backdrop, and then I use score tape to put that acetate on, and I just use liquid glue to adhere the scene to the panel, because it gives me some room to wiggle it around and try to get it as centered as possible before it dries, so I can make sure that the frame is sitting evenly like it's supposed to. I double up this foam tape that I have, but it's really thin. I probably should have tripled or even quadrupled it. It's really quite thin. So I don't get as much shakiness as I would like in the card, and if I had to do it over, I'd probably at least triple layer it or use some different foam tape that's a little bit thicker. So I just have to trim that down, and I sure do love my scissors that have the anti-stick blade on it. It makes a huge difference when you're cutting these long strips of foam tape. I always use a static, de-static tool inside the acetate, but for me, I always have things that stick. It just never seems to fail that I have things that stick. And as you can see here, I go overboard with sequins and the little confetti. I just wanted all the colors and I just went crazy. So word to the wise, do not do what I did. I just went crazy overboard, and I end up having to rip this back open and take a whole bunch out and kind of redo it. So I just loved all the pretty colors and just wanted them all in there, and just got way too many. So don't do what I did. So a little bit more about this hop. This is a hop with Team Tiny, and it's hashtag Team Tiny Under the Sea. So if you search for that in your search bar, you'll be able to see all the creative people who have contributed to this hop, and we were fortunate enough to be able to work with 7 Kids Craft Store and their awesome digital designs for the mermaids. And so those links are listed in the description box, and they have some fabulous craft items. They have tons of different brands that they have in their store, all the way from Ranger Ink to My Favorite Things to Tonic Studios to Penny Black. So just pretty much anything you could be looking for, you can find at 7 Kids Craft Store. So be sure to check them out. So excuse my quarantine hair head that gets in the way of the camera. I trying to figure out where to put this sending, and I just don't like how I stamped it, And so I ended up just cutting it out with a circle die cut. I used VersaFine, so that was a mistake because I ended up coloring over it with my Spectrum Noir, and it did bleed a little bit, but I was able to smooth that out, so you really didn't notice it. And then I used my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen to add some shine and sparkle to that as well. The Seven Kids Craft Store also has free shipping if you order over $60, and it has a rewards program. Plus, right now, if you enter the code in vacation, capital V, and then the rest lowercase vacation, you can get 20% off your order, and that is good until July 19th. So be sure to check them out and use that vacation code for the discount. So back to the frame, it was really way too bright compared to all the other colors of the water. So I ended up going back over it with my Spectrum Noir pens, and I just colored it darker towards the bottom, and I ended up using the blending pen to smooth all those colors out, and I was happy with it in the end. It came out really pretty, and I do wish I would have done a few things differently, but that's the fun thing about crafting, right? Is that you can make mistakes, try to cover them up and learn from them and do something different next time.